It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of November 22nd, 1996. Not quite Thanksgiving weekend, but we're pretty close. But we still got 4 movies to look at, some notable movies again. And we're going to start off with the biggest movie of the week, of course, which is Star Trek First Contact.
Imagine a race of beings, possessed of one mind, driven by one will, intent on one purpose, to seize our past and control our future.
What it goes for Earth. Maximum warp.
Now, one captain against orders.
Red alert! All hands to battle stations.
Must succeed where all others have failed.
Looks like the control deck's 26 up to 11.
They have assimilated more than half the ship.
Surrender yourself or we will destroy your ship.
The line must be drawn here.
On November 22nd, resistance is futile. Star Trek First Contact.
Of course, Star Trek First Contact is actually the second movie starring the Next Generation team, but this is the first film where they are solely the stars of it, because, of course, Generations was a combination of both the original crew and the Next Generation team. Although, if we're being honest here, it was mostly just 3 people from the original series, and then basically Picard and the Next Generation, because he was the only one that was really teaming up with the people from the original series. But I digress. I mean, it wasn't a bad movie, but it definitely wasn't what they advertised. And unlike that movie, First Contact is actually considered one of the best Star Trek movies, and it's easily considered the best of the Next Generation movies, because, really, did you see what follows after that? But I'm not really going to disagree with him on that. This movie is really incredible. I mean, much like what Wrath of Khan was to the original crew, First Contact fixes a lot of the big flaws that were in Generations and goes for a more epic and grandiose action film. I mean, the main plot basically is kind of similar to what they did with The Voyage Home, mostly with the time travel aspect, which, again, they make it seem like they've never been able to do this before, but they've done it so many times in the past. It's like, does the people in the Federation have amnesia or Alzheimer's or something like that? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but other than that, though, there really aren't that many flaws with the movie. I think everything about it really does work as well as it should have. The cast works their magic once again. They bring in new characters played by James Cromwell and Alfie Woodard. They're great in this movie. Alice Krige playing the Borg Queen is a great Star Trek villain. The design looks incredible. She's given this really threatening and menacing performance. And the visuals still hold up after all these years. Like, a lot of the stuff in this movie still holds up after all these years. The action sequences are shot phenomenally. There's a great action sequence towards the end of the movie that takes place all over the Enterprise. That's one of the best shot action sequences. That's one of the best action sequences they've done in these movies. I mean, it's that good. And the script overall is very well done. It does a good job of continuing the story from the best of both worlds, which is arguably the best Next Generation episode. And they're also able to put in some good parables to Moby Dick in there as well, which kind of leads into the best thing about the movie. And I think that's Patrick Stewart in this. I mean, this is probably his greatest performance as Picard in this movie. I mean, he's acting his ass off, and he nails every single line that's given to him in this movie.
No! No! I will not sacrifice the Enterprise. We've made too many compromises already, too many retreats. They invade our space, and we fall back. They assimilate entire worlds, and we fall back. Not again. The line must be drawn here.
A line that's so good that South Park can use that line in their Fingerbang episode and nobody would even notice.
No! No!
And yet it kind of works. But, like I said, it's Patrick Stewart giving maybe his best performance as Picard ever. And this is a guy that still plays him to this very day on the Picard series, which is still pretty good. But nothing, I think, will ever top this performance here. It's a great performance. It's the heart of the movie. it's as good as a Star Trek movie as you can get. It's the Wrath of Khan for the Next Generation team. It creates a great story, taking from an episode that's been done in the past. It has a great performances all around, action sequences that still hold up after all these years, a really good script, fantastic music. This is one of the definitive Star Trek movies to watch. It's a must-watch in this series of films. I can't recommend it enough. So, with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our next movie, and that is Arnold Schwarzenegger in the holiday comedy Jingle All The Way.
Every holiday season, there's one toy everyone has to have.
I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the rocket arm jetpack, and the boomerang shooter.
Getting it is every child's dream.
Whoever doesn't can be a real loser.
Finding it
You got the doll, right?
is this father's nightmare.
I'll get that toy. I promise.
Whoa! Nothing like waiting till the last minute, Howard, sir.
Especially on Christmas Eve.
They're all gone.
These two are looking for a Turbo Man.
Where's your Christmas spirit?
The last one just left.
Now, it's two fathers,
This is war.
one mission,
Oh, poor baby.
and every man for himself.
I'm thinking maybe, we could join up as a team. Like Starsky and Hutch. Well, late delivery of Turbo Man. The toy works. Let's go. Is there a problem, officer?
You can never do too much to make a child's Christmas magical.
Hey, buddy.
From the director of Mrs. Doubtfire,
You want a Turbo Man for Christmas?
Forget it. I'm not going to sit in your lap.
Tony, show him.
That was taken this morning.
and from the director of The Flintstones.
Don't open that up. No.
Of course, there's some assembly
You
required.
know what you guys are? Nothing but a bunch of sleazy con men in red suits.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sinbad,
I work for the post office and I'm unstable. Tell him. This man is totally insane. Thank you.
Christmas comes but once a year.
Jingle All The Way.
You picked the wrong day.
You would think that this movie would be on the same level as something like Santa with Muscles that we looked at a couple weeks ago, but I know what you're thinking. Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the biggest action stars of all time, in this silly family Christmas movie. I mean, granted, it's not like he hasn't done comedy before. I mean, Twins, Kindergarten Cop Jr., so why does this surprise a lot of people that he did a movie like this for children? Well, it's basically because Arnold Schwarzenegger taking on a role like this would be more suitable for somebody like a Jim Carrey or an Adam Sandler or whoever the popular comedy star is at the time. But Arnold Schwarzenegger, it just seems like an odd choice for him to take on a role like this. But then again, it could have been a whole lot worse. He could have done something that he did to Sylvester Stallone with "Stopping My Mom Will Shoot," or he could have done the Tooth Fairy, which he was gonna do before Dwayne Johnson eventually did it. It was actually written for him in the '90s, and he decided not to do that. But he decided to do this movie, and Jingle All The Way, I think, just by that trailer alone, I think they're more than aware of how silly and stupid this is, and it just goes all out with how insane they can get with it. It's got the cheesy Schwarzenegger lines, it's got the over-the-top comedy, it's got the sense of we don't give a fuck what we're doing, we just want to have fun mentally to it, and for that, I kind of admire the movie for that. It never takes itself seriously whatsoever. And I think there are things to actually admire about the movie. I think both Schwarzenegger and Sinbad do work off each other very well. You also got Phil Hartman playing the great asshole character we've come to know and love him for, the roles he's been in. Some of the jokes actually do work here, and the concept about getting a Christmas gift at the last minute is a good concept, and it's a good satirical concept when you also consider this came out in 1996. What else came out in 1996? Tickle Me Elmo, the Tickle Me Elmo toy from Sesame Street. And if you were around back at the time, you knew how crazy popular that toy was. Like, it was basically what the Cabbage Patch Kids were in the 1980s. Like, people went to toy stores and just just had to get their hands on it. They didn't. They'd fight you. You'd fight them for it. There'd be brawls all over the place. Kids would be upset that they didn't get it. It was that popular back then. And just goes to show you how times have changed in the 30 years since then. Because, like, I think that was the last time people really went nuts over something like, over a specific toy like that. But nowadays we have the internet and online shopping. You can get that stuff easily. But it's done pretty well here. It's kind of a satirical. It brings like a little satirical edge to it here, and the film does a pretty good job as that. But then again, some of the other acting is not that great here. Rita Wilson is kind of wasted here playing the wife of Arnold Schwarzenegger's character. Jake Lloyd doesn't have a whole lot of charisma to him, and many of the jokes around him kind of fall apart pretty badly. But I mean, he's not terrible in the movie, and in fact, this was the thing that got him the role in Phantom Menace. And for what he had to do, I'll give him credit for what he had to do. He did a pretty good job with it, but a decent job, I should say, not a pretty good job. But it could have been a lot better. But here's the difference between Jingle All the Way and some other movies that have come out as of late, like Surviving Christmas, or Christmas with the Cranks, or Deck the Halls, or A Christmas Story 2, or even the Jingle All the Way sequel with Larry the Cable Guy. Actual effort was put into this movie. You could tell the effort was put in there. The people who made this movie knew exactly what they were doing. They knew that what they were making was stupid, but they said, hey, let's just go and have fun with it. And there's definitely a sense that this cast having fun with the material given here worked. We saw it in Space Jam the week before. Regardless how dumb it is, it still works pretty well for what they were trying to do. And yeah, it's Arnold Schwarzenegger, the biggest star in the world at the time, in a Christmas movie. I mean, what more do you have to say about it? It's stupid, it's nonsensical, but it's fun to watch for how bad it is nonetheless. It's the perfect definition of a nostalgic guilty pleasure, and during the holiday season, I at least have to watch it once a year. That's one of those movies I have to watch every single year. I know how terrible it is, I know it's not that great of a movie, but you know what? They know it too. It's one of my biggest guilty pleasures of all time, so I love this movie to death, man. I can't help it. If you can go in there with that sense of humor, with a good sense of humor, and knowing what they're doing is pretty stupid and nonsensical, I think you'll have a pretty good time with it. But I know some people don't, but that's okay with me. But that's Jingle All the Way. Let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, and that is Jeffrey Rush in the movie Shine.
He was a boy. David dreamed of greatness.
I won't let anyone destroy this family.
But when life became a struggle, one remarkable woman
What's he like when he gets to know you better?
gave him the strength
Will you marry me?
to shine. Winner of 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Actor Jeffrey Rush, Best Director, and Best Picture of the Year. Shine, rated PG-13, now playing select cities, additional cities Friday.
So this is directed by Scott Hicks, who, looking at his filmography, this is probably his high point, because after this he did Snow Falling on Cedars, which wasn't that great, Hearts in Atlantis, which wasn't that great, No Reservations, which wasn't that great, The Lucky One, which was terrible. This is probably his highlight as a filmmaker. This is a guy who has made a couple movies before this, Down the Wind, Freedom, Call Me Mr. Brown, Sebastian the Sparrow. But again, this is probably the one film that he'll be remembered most of all, unless he does something really incredible pretty soon. But the movie itself is a decent film. It's not a great film overall, but I think it works solely because of the performances. Jeffrey Rush playing the guy named David Helfgott. I'm reading the name off of here so I get it right. David Helfgott, who I think really does a good performance in here. It got him the Best Actor in 1996, which I think it was well deserved in this movie. But that's the really only good thing I remember from this movie coming out of it. I was just kind of like, it's kind of an Oscar baitish film, but I think the performances are overall very good here. Not only is Rush very good, but you have Lynn Redgrave, Aaron Morrow-Stahl, Nora Taylor, John Gielgud. Just some really good cast in here, and a really solid group here to put this together. It's a decent film. It's not one I'd watch over and over again, but it's one that I was just kind of like, I'm glad I saw it. For a one-time watch, I think for Jeffrey Rush's performance alone, I think it is worth it. But other than that, though, there really isn't a whole lot else there I could recommend about this movie. It's fine for what it is, but it definitely isn't one of those must-see movies that came out of that year. I don't think it really was one of the best pictures that came out in 1996, at least in my opinion. But that's Shine. Let's go ahead and take a look at our last movie here, and that is Emilio Estevez starring in and directing The War at Home.
Academy Award winner Kathy Bates, Martin Sheen, and Emilio Estevez star in the powerful and compelling story, The War at Home. In this house.
Dear Lord, we ask your blessing on this food for the nourishment of our bodies through Christ our Lord. Amen. I'm really getting tired of your attitude. I didn't do anything wrong.
On this holiday.
Let's all be happy. It's Thanksgiving.
in this family,
I just want to tell you I'm not going to be having dinner with you today.
Jeremy?
there is a secret.
You know Jeremy was screaming in his sleep again last night?
Yeah, I heard.
And a silence.
I know you had a rough time over there.
Over there. You can't even say it.
What?
Vietnam.
About to explode.
Why do I get the feeling that Family Guy, when they did their Thanksgiving episode where Joe's son comes back from the war in Iraq and he kind of has this new perception on life and how is after what happened to him in there, I feel like they took a lot from this movie because I saw a lot of that in that episode in this movie, in just that trailer alone. But yeah, this is The War at Home. This is Emilio Estevez's third film he directed. He actually made this as part of a deal with Disney, who basically, he appeared in D3 The Mighty Ducks, and then he would get to do this movie. And then Disney actually underpromoted this film. This film barely got any attention. It was a box office bomb. It only made like $43,000 off of a $3 million budget, which is not a good sign whatsoever. But when you look at this trailer, you pretty much kind of can see why. It's nothing really all that amazing. It's not even that good of a drama, honestly. It's just people arguing with each other, and there's nothing really all that amazing about it. Everyone's kind of Oscar baiting here, despite the fact they have good actors in here. Kathy Bates, Martin Sheen, Kimberly Williams, Carla Gugino, Lane Smith, and Emilio Estevez. And I think Emilio Estevez can be a good director. I think his best film as a director was actually his next movie he did, which was Bobby, the story of Bobby Kennedy that came out 10 years later. I think that's a much better movie from him. But this, it just feels like he's awards baiting here. Like this is not a movie that really has a lot of interesting characters. It's a story that doesn't really have anything that engaging about it. There's nothing too exciting about it. The emotional moments in here feel very manipulative. It just doesn't work as a movie overall. And Estevez has proven to be a solid filmmaker over his career, not only as an actor but as a director too. But it just feels like he was forcing it on this movie. Like it doesn't feel like his heart was in the right place when he made this movie. At least in my opinion, I think that's what happened with this movie. I think that's why it doesn't work very well. But I don't know. I saw it once many years ago. Like I'm the robot from Aqua Teen Hunger Force. Many years ago. No, I saw it a couple years ago, and I was just like, this really did not work out very well. And like I said, I like Emilio Estevez as a filmmaker and an actor, but this, I think, was one of his more weaker films that he's done. Like I said, I think his best movie he directed was Bobby, which I think was a much better movie. This one, not so much. So, yeah, that's The War at Home. So with that said, that wraps up another edition of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, we'll look at Thanksgiving weekend with 4 movies, including Glenn Close in one of Disney's early live-action adaptations of one of its classics, 101 Dalmatians. We also have Daniel Day-Lewis in The Crucible, Billy Bob Thornton in Sling Blade, and also Zero Kelvin. So 4 movies to look at next time around, and we'll delve into those on the next episode. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.